You're listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, the place to learn about new technology and technological advances before they become mainstream. This podcast is sponsored by Ingram Micro's Imagine Next. It's not about the destination. It's about going someplace you never thought possible. Go to imaginenext.ingrammicro.com to find out more. Let's get into it.
Welcome to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. I'm your host, Keri Roberts, and my guest today is Nazem, a channel security client technical professional at IBM. Welcome to the show. So excited to have you here today.
Hi, Keri. Thank you for having me.
Kami, I want to start with something IBM has created. It's called the 2020 Call for Code Global Challenge. Can you tell us more about this and how IBM is helping some of the initial COVID-19 solutions receive deployment support?
So Call for Code is a developer challenge that seeks to inspire developers to use their skills towards solving some of the world's hardest problems and create open source technology, basically to all the solutions to mitigate the impact of natural disasters and simply putting tech to good use. Considering the current COVID-19 pandemic, Call for Code has asked innovators around the world to basically create practical applications based on our IBM cloud services, simply to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on communities around the world that can have an immediate impact. So basically, if you ask how IBM is helping these some of these initiatives, maybe perhaps receive deployment support, as you can imagine, some developers may already come to the table and know what they want to build. But for those who don't, IBM provides simply starter kits. These quick start guides basically help developers jumpstart their development and understand the scope of the problem and then start building applications, simply tied to an easy to understand use cases in a relatively short period of time. So through Call for Code, developers have a chance to see their ideas deployed by global partner ecosystems. And I would encourage your audience to go to callforcode.org, where they can read more about the available resources and the global challenge timelines. And if I may, at this time, I would like to also share with you IBM's response to meet the global challenge of COVID-19.
Yes, we'd love to hear that.
Beautiful. So specific to the security concerns, as many employees have started to work from home, and how security can be ramped up to address the current trends. When you have an influx of new devices connections, a flurry of requests for remote access to sensitive information, and obviously the looming threats of phishing and other web-based attacks. This is where I would like to mention the familiar categories that directly deals with the remote workforce, which are basically endpoint and identity and access management. IBM is helping to secure this growing remote workforce by offering extended no-charge access to a number of solutions for 90 days. IBM is also helping our clients simply to stay on top of the latest threat intelligence as attackers take advantage of this type of uncertainty in the world. In addition to the 90-day of the solutions, some certain solutions, we're also offering the no-charge access to COVID-19 coronavirus threat intelligence collections on the very well-known IBM X-Force Exchange. So that's basically, how we are trying to help the communities, if you want.
Yeah, and not just even during this time. One of the things you also do is that IBM really loves to help developers, and you offer more than 100 open source projects. You have a library of knowledgeable resources. There's developer advocates ready to help, and of course, a global community of developers. And I was actually on the site yesterday. For those that haven't been to it, it's developer.ibm.com, and was really impressed with the resources that you have and that you offer and how you help, beyond kind of in times of need. Can you tell us more about this and why IBM is such a big supporter of developers?
Absolutely. That's a very good point. So essentially, IBM puts everything a developer needs in one location. This includes open source code and patterns, security and compliance information, learning tools of all kinds, and support all in a single place. So developers will see an immediate impact from our digital assets. as I mentioned, including open source code and patterns, which are available for use right away to complete most development tasks. So IBM is pretty much, as mentioned previously, is committed to help the developer community doing the most important thing, which is writing code and solving problems. The goal is to provide the resources, tools, and community to inspire coders to go further and to bring developers together as a community to collaborate and innovate new solutions, not only to share their learnings and perhaps get expert advice on coding challenges when they face those. As you know, these days, developers rely heavily on open source to deliver better, faster, more innovative technologies. And I think it's not new news, but it's important to note that open source got another ringing endorsement in 2018 when IBM acquired Red Hat, which together we are now a major contributor and provider in open software, if you will.
That's fabulous. And you were mentioning, obviously security earlier, and whether someone is working from home as a developer or as an employee of a large organization, security is, of course, always of utmost importance. What are maybe 3 things or so that you think those working from home should prioritize when it comes to security?
Yeah, very important subject. In response to, I would say, to the COVID-19 pandemic, enterprises, as you know, find their employees newly working from home and remote locations needing to stay connected to business partners and into corporate networks. We know that adversaries are increasing their attacks and clients need to manage the threats and keep their security posture strong and intact. A workforce that is almost entirely remote presents a lot of more security challenges. Defending against every potential intrusion is the only possible way to ensure that employees, clients, and customers are all as protected as possible, I should say. So I would say as more and more employees are working from home, we want to be mindful of identity management. So letting the right people in while safeguarding the organization's systems, data, applications, and so forth from basically any unauthorized access. It becomes very, very critical at this time. And while working from home, it's normal that you would have an increased use of email, right? I mean, everybody using email these days. So email becomes a perfect medium for phishing campaigns, which target stealing user information and taking over the machines. Stealing an admin credential is very difficult to detect as the bad actors are typically using legit credentials. So they appear legit to most detection tools and capabilities. So, we try to encourage organizations focus on protecting the crown jewels representing in their databases of information, for example. You have in the databases, you have financial records, you have sensitive records, you have client databases that are perhaps have maybe social security numbers, credit card and sensitive information that need to be safeguarded. So we encourage organizations to have tools to track and monitor user access and data transfer from the databases. So in case a hacker is using an admin credentials, organizations should have some kind of, if you will, some kind of user behavior and analytics tools to monitor all access to the data and flag any unusual activity beyond the admin's normal user profile. And last but not least, and probably the top priority in my opinion, is the privileged access management, which is the ability to identify and secure and manage all type of privileged accounts. So when it comes to privileged account credentials, what you don't know can hurt you. Not knowing how many privileged accounts exist, how they are being used, or where they are located is a major vulnerability, especially at time of crisis like right now where we have all this remote workforce. So if I may, in summary, I would say organizations should consider focusing their time and resources in protecting mobile devices and data, and also safeguard users and access.
Do you have any suggestions of, ways that people could protect passwords? Should they be using something like LastPass? With so many people working from home, like you said, on mobile devices, iPads, things of that nature, what's the best way for them to kind of create great passwords and make sure they're secure?
What we recommend, number one, is obviously have a password that's not easy to guess and is at least 15 characters long. And we also heavily encourage using multi authentication factors, right? Not only just a password, but have your mobile number in there where you get a text and you verify again to basically gain access. So multi-factor authentication, it's very important when it comes to sign on to you, perhaps corporate environment, or even when you're doing your own banking.
Now, why do you think IBM stands out specifically when it comes to security?
I would say that perhaps savvy companies know that in today's data-driven, highly distributed world, there are serious threats that must be addressed head-on. And we believe that we deliver an integrated system of analytics, real-time defenses, and perhaps over 8,000 proven experts that are available to help customers make strategic decisions about how to safeguard their business. I would say IBM is one of the largest security solution providers in the industry with thousands of customers using our product and services. As you know, we offer managed cloud security services for organizations that want to take advantage of the flexibility and scalability of the cloud, but do not have the skills in-house to manage the security for their own clouds. So again, IBM's portfolio of security products are, I would say, are cloud ready, if you will, meaning that we help protect clients' applications infrastructure as they build their private clouds. It is also worth mentioning that even if organizations are not an IBM cloud client and say they are on AWS or Azure or other clouds providers, the IBM security solutions can still help them unify and deploy security controls across their hybrid multi-cloud. I hope that answered the question regarding, why IBM, right?
Real quick, before we jump straight back into the episode today, we want to tell you about Ingram Micro Financial Solutions and how you can maximize your buying power and get to yes with your customers faster. For the last 9 years, Ingram Micro has been Channel Pro's reader's choice for best financing options. Put the power of our credit and leasing options to work for you. You can easily contact Financial Solutions at ingrammicro.com. All right, let's get back to the show.
IBM offers something called an embedded solution agreement, or an ESA. What is that and who is that best for?
So the ESA provides partners with a vehicle to create basically a unique solution with IBM's technology and market the solution to their own downstream customers. An embedded solution is a combination of basically IBM offerings and a technology partner's value-add component that could be additional capabilities, or it could be services. So when they're working together, creating that solution, it creates a commercially available business partner branded solution that is distinct from our original IBM offerings. So under this ESA or embed solution agreement, which partners integrate and bundle this IBM software with their value add software and services, as I mentioned, like in case of the MSSPs or MSPs, and sell as a total solution to their own customers anywhere in the world. So, often when we talk about value of the ESA, partners want to know why they should choose ESA versus a traditional research model, where a partner will help a client deploy a particular IBM solution, and the client takes title to the license of the actual software and potentially a service engagement to help the client implement that solution. However, when it comes to ESA, it's for partners that want to accelerate time to market. And ESA really helps a partner take a whole solution to market, including some IBM embed technologies. It could be security solutions, it could be analytics solutions, and it'll help them deliver an outcome for a client rather than just a license, which traditionally happens in other circumstances. So think of it, instead of selling a piece of software, a partner would be selling a managed service or a solution that's repeatable into a variety of different customers. So when the client partners with IBM, they drive that business on a repeatable basis or create one solution, if you will, for a particular first client, and then make it available to the particular market, whether it's into a particular vertical industry or a particular business user type. Obviously, if it makes sense for them to take it on a repeatable basis. And also, I also want to mention that we need to keep in mind that ESA is not for everyone. And it's not an open program. A client must meet specific program requirements and be approved to participate.
And can you share with us what those requirements would be?
Sure. So the requirements are basically, they have to be able to provide level 1, level 2 for the on-prem support and level 1 for the SaaS products. So the partner needs to be able to provide that kind of support. The solution provider also needs to own the entitlements. There's typically no joint development with IBM, but support is typically okay. And there is value add requirements. So the value add component that the partner brings to the table to add with the IBM technology, it needs to go through some regression in terms of what it is and what actual value it's providing to that whole solution. There's requirements around that. It's basically needs to be something of value, if you will. Yeah, and it could be, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of MSPs or MSSPs, it could be the services that they bundle around IBM technology. And it cannot be used for purchasing that software for internal use. It has to be something that they are rolling out and monetizing, if you will.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. And I know you're going to give us information of where they can learn more in a little bit. But before we get to that, the one question we do love to ask on this show to all of our guests is, where do you see technology going within the next year?
Considering everything going on at this time and the fact that cloud has been around for a while, but every day we learn more and more companies wanting to move to cloud. But however, it's, in reality, I would say maybe 20 or 30% of the organizations or enterprises have already done so, and the rest are slowly moving towards that. So I think cloud is a critical supporting infrastructure for the crisis, not only during this crisis and beyond. And I think cloud capacity, especially from the hyperscale vendors like us and others, is what is going to get us through this pandemic and beyond. Again, with a remote home-based workforce, remote desktop technologies will be essential until pretty much native born in the cloud applications can run core business functions. Legacy vertical industry apps are problematic and will need to be pretty much refactored and rewritten entirely for PaaS and SaaS. And again, this will occur using enabling technologies such as Kubernetes and microservices. And I would say, as we continue to deal with this COVID-19 pandemic, every indication tells us that it will be here until a vaccine is developed. So, I would say, previous privacy concerns about revealing our whereabouts and tracking the sake of, tracking our whereabouts for the sake of convenience, I would say will give way to maintaining social distancing requirements. So instead of perhaps using our mapping applications on our mobile devices to tell us, the traffic jams or navigate to where our favorite restaurants or retail shop is, I would say there will be likely shift towards using big data, machine learning to facilitate social distancing and minimize large gatherings. So I would say a lot of this will be applied to logistics so that access to goods and services and public places, I would say, will be scheduled to minimize crowds using perhaps real-time data from smartphones and so on and so forth. So that's what I think we're going.
You said only 20 to 30% of organizations are on the cloud?
I would say yes, because there are basically challenges, and in terms of some of these legacy applications that need to be migrated to cloud.
So do you think that they haven't done it because they felt like they weren't ready for it, or it's too big of an issue? But now you're saying because of the way the world is, because of what's been going on with the pandemic, it's going to be necessary?
I think yes. I think it's going to be. It's going to be, not only is it has been necessary, but due to the pandemic and due to this whole workforce being remotely and everything's changing, so you want to have access to multiple different locations. You need to be on the cloud where you provide that easy access, not only to your users, but also to your administrators or IT personnel, where they can manage those different aspects of applications. If we were thinking about this, moving to cloud may take maybe 5 years. If we thought about that, I think this whole pandemic is going to force a lot of companies to accelerate that move into the cloud and start building a lot more. I mean, some companies are doing it. I mean, I'm not talking about small, I'm talking about maybe perhaps a small to medium large companies, right? So where they can start accelerating building cloud native applications a lot faster than they initially thought they should.
Now, we talked about a lot of things today, about things that IBM offers for developers, for security, the ESA, and now we're kind of talking about cloud. If people have questions, they want to connect with you, they want to learn more about what we talked about, where are some of the best places to do that?
To connect with me, I'm very active on LinkedIn, and my LinkedIn page is basically my first name, last name. And be happy to participate in any follow-up conversations. And also, I would like to also mention Kevin Fisher at Ingram Micro. It's also available to address any follow-up questions or anything that related to anything we talked about. And Kevin's email is kevin.fisher@ingrammicro.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Kemi, for sharing your insight and knowledge about what IBM is doing and your thoughts on the future. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Keri, and appreciate the opportunity.
If you like this episode or have a question, join the discussion on Twitter at Ingram Tech Soul with the hashtag B2B Tech Talk. Thank you for tuning in and subscribing to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro.
You've been listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, hosted by Keri Roberts. This episode was sponsored by Ingram Micro's Imagine Next. B2B Tech Talk is a joint production with Sweetfish Media and Ingram Micro. Ingram Micro production handled by Laura Burton and Christine Fan. To not miss an episode, subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform.